While Sir Keir Starmer gives Israel an ultimatum over Gaza, Britain teeters on the edge at home. The Prime Minister has been accused of rewarding Hamas over his plan to recognize Palestine statehood in September unless Israel agrees to a ceasefire, allows the United Nations to restart the supply of aid, and opens up a path to a two-state solution. GB News members overwhelmingly agree with this assessment, with respondents to our poll accusing the PM of trying to distract from the increasingly bleak situation back home. As Labour wades into the Middle East, GB News looks at the 5 ways Britain is buckling, from spiraling crime to the bleak economic picture and protests over migrant hotels. A new report by Policy Exchange has revealed 4,555 hyper-prolific criminals, those with 46 or more convictions, avoided jail last year. It found that these criminals were sent to prison on less than half of all occasions, 44.5%, on conviction. For those with 26 to 45 previous offenses, 9,483 criminals walked free, despite there being a mandatory sentencing provisions for repeat knife carriers to be sent to prison. The report from Policy Exchange's head of crime and former Metropolitan Police Detective Chief Inspector David Spencer also showed that one small area of around 20 streets in London's west, near Oxford Circus and Regent Street, had more knife crime than nearly 15% of the rest of the capital combined. Sir Keir Starmer is poised to realign with EU rules on the automotive industry in what has been described as a betrayal to Brexit. Shared exclusively with GB News, the newsstand for our sovereignty organization, backed by think tank Brexit Facts for EU, has obtained proof that Britain's motor industry is to fall under EU rules. In May 2024, 2 months before Starmer swept to power, the UK's position on vehicle regulation was crystal clear. The Department of Transport, DfT, had produced a policy paper that promised to keep the motor industry untethered to the EU. A year later, the Prime Minister is set to roll back on this commitment to keep the industry unhooked from the EU. An official response from the Department for Transport to the House of Commons Secondary Legislation Scrutiny Committee reads, "The Department recently wrote to manufacturers to reassure them that GB regulations will be maintained to be aligned with those in the EU to ensure vehicles can continue to be sold UK-wide." Deputy Leader of Reform UK, Richard Tice, branded the move a total betrayal of Brexit. Starmer is facing increasing pressure around Britain's migrant crisis as tense standoffs escalate over illegal immigration. A number of recent protests have been held over asylum seekers' hotels, including a demonstration outside the Bell Hotel in Epping, Essex, earlier this month, which has so far led to 23 arrests. Chancellor Rachel Reeves vowed to close down hotels used by roughly 32,000 asylum seekers by the end of the current Parliament in 2029. However, Labour MP for Bassett Law Joe White said the caucus she leads of around 40 MPs wants the hotels to be shut down far sooner than promised. Britain's high streets are meanwhile feeling the pressure of rising taxes and wage costs. Figures from Begbie's Trainer, a firm that helps struggling companies, show that 49,309 businesses are in critical financial distress, up more than 21% compared to this time last year. Pubs and restaurants are some of the hardest hit, with a 41.7% rise in severe financial trouble. Travel firms saw distress rise by 39%, while retail businesses faced a 17.8% increase. A big part of the problem is the Chancellor's decision to raise national insurance by $25 billion, along with minimum wage increases. High street sales have now fallen for 10 months in a row. The latest retail figures from the Confederation of British Industry, CBI, show a sales reading of 34, which is slightly better than June's, 46, but still deeply negative. Shoppers are cutting back as businesses raise prices to cover their own rising costs. Inflation is now at 3.6%, well above the Bank of England's 2% target, while the UK economy has shrunk for 2 months straight. Experts are warning of stagflation, where the economy slows but prices keep rising. This squeezes consumers, damages businesses, and makes it harder for the Bank of England to decide when or if it should cut interest rates. The Labour government has faced backlash over its plans for Britain to become net zero by 2050. This includes Reform UK leader Nigel Farage, who accused ministers of defrauding taxpayers out of billions of pounds by funding green energy projects. Speaking earlier this month, Farage said, "We've got ourselves stuck in this mindset. We believe that man has an influence on changing the climate. I didn't deny that. I think man does. But whether that's a reason to transfer manufacturing to other parts of the world, to have the most expensive energy prices for industry in the world, and to make the poor poorer in society for almost no benefit whatsoever, I doubt it."